I have favorite books and I have favorite authors, but lately I've been wondering, what are my favorite authors' favorite books? I think it's in part because I want to be an author myself one day, but there's some books that just speak to me on a soul deep level. Like, this is how I want to write. And it has me wondering how many of my favorite authors have had the same experience. Luckily, Goodreads came through like it usually does and provided me with a list of some of my favorite authors' favorite books. So Bailey, Abby Jimenez, Katie Robert, those are just a few of the authors that Goodreads interviewed and asked, for their romance recommendations. But I was most intrigued by Kennedy Ryan's picks, of course. Not only is she incredibly talented, but I love that her romance recommendations seem to span across genres, across time periods even, and they didn't seem to be just like recent releases from some of her fellow author friends, like some of the other authors on this list. No shade to any of those authors, like I totally understand wanting to hype up your peers, but I liked Kennedy Ryan's recommendations because they seemed like they were just some of her favorite books. Kennedy and all of the authors who are featured on this list wrote a little paragraph about why she loves romance, and she talked specifically about how she really enjoys real and raw fiction, which I think is very evident when you read her own books. Said she really enjoys exploring the difficulties of everyday life, knowing that you're going to get a happily ever after in romance. And again, I think that just speaks to the kind of author she is and the books that she writes. I'm really excited to dive into her picks and see how many books that she loves are reflective of that. Yeah, to pick her brain and see what inspires her. Now, the books I'm going to be reading are Flowers from the Storm by Laura Kinsale. This is an old school historical romance I have heard good things about, and I do actually own a physical copy of. I am going to be listening to the audio. Glitterland, which is a queer romance by Alexis Hall. This is actually one of my best friend's favorite books as well, so I am really excited to finally try this one. Then we have Black, which is another historical romance. This one set in the American South during the 1800s. I've heard this one is not only interesting, but also really romantic. Also, How to Kill a Rockstar, which is a contemporary romance between a musician and a music journalist. And lastly, I'm going to be revisiting Let Me Love You by Alexandria House. I wanted to pick 5 books to make this an I Read 5 video. There were 8 books recommended by Kennedy Ryan. I read 4 of them. I picked 4 that I hadn't read, and I was like, what am I going to revisit? What am I going to revisit? I'm going to revisit Let Me Love You because I did really enjoy this one, and it's been a while. I can't remember much about it except for really enjoying it. It's another contemporary romance. If you're curious about the other 3 recommendations from Kennedy Ryan, or you want to see what the other authors recommended, you can check out the link in my description down below. You'll also probably see another link in my description because my absolute favorite beauty device is on sale right now for Black Friday. Freo is kindly sponsoring this video, and I'm so excited to share the FAQ 202 with you because they are doing an incredible Black Friday deal right now. If you use my code ainsley35, you can get an additional 35% off. I've talked about it quite a few times here on my channel, but I'm still obsessed with the FAQ 202. It's one of those things that I just continue to use, and it continues to get better and better, and the results for my skin are better and better. It's a new generation of LED face mask made out of this really awesome flexible silicone that really molds to your face, and it's something that I can put on literally any time of day and get up and go. This is not something that you have to plug into a wall and just be stationary. I can get up and do things around my house, or I can kick back and read a book while using this, which I mean technically is my job, so I'm like doing my job while also taking care of my skin. It is a win-win all around. Now, the only thing that's really changed with my FAQ 202 routine lately is the addition of the red light peptide serum. I absolutely love applying this before using my mask because it amplifies and accelerates the LED therapy, and it's just the cherry on top. Again, I love this because I don't have to stay plugged into a wall, but in addition to that, it also does so much for my skin because it has different wavelengths I can use depending on my skin's needs, including NIR, which is amazing for tackling the signs of aging in the skin. Then again, the other wavelengths are great for other things, like if I've got acne going on or if I'm trying to heal blemishes, that sort of thing. Like I said, this is amazing from first use, but it's even better the more that I use it. My skin looks smoother, softer. I feel like my fine lines and wrinkles have been a lot less noticeable, and I don't feel like I need to go out and spend a ton of money on expensive products or treatments to make my skin look the way that I want it to. This does so much. Again, if you'd like to check out any of Freo's incredible Black Friday deals, click the link in my description box, and don't forget to use code ainsley35 to get that additional 35% off. This applies to nearly all of Freo's products, which means you can get up to 50% off on Freo products. This is definitely something you don't want to miss out on. Thanks again to Freo for sponsoring this portion of today's video, and now let's get vlogging, my friends. So I decided to start with Flowers from the Storm, and I can't tell if it's a good idea or a bad idea to have picked this one first. On the one hand, it's a very long book compared to the others, so I'll get it done quickly. On the other hand, I don't really like starting videos with stinkers if I can avoid it. This one is giving Stinker Central. I'm gonna be honest, I am not enjoying this book kind of whatsoever. The general premise of the book is that our hero suffers a stroke at the beginning of the story. He is a notorious rake. In fact, he's in bed with a woman he's impregnated at the beginning of the story who is like married to some other person of the gentry. Yeah, just sleep with your husband and pretend it's his baby. Okay, what a start to a story. I mean, like, you can, I guess, set up a story that way and have him be a reformed rake. That's not really what we're getting here, okay? So very early on in the story, our hero has a stroke and he is unable to communicate in ways that he has been in the past, primarily verbally. It also takes him a little bit of time to process things that are said to him, but when we're in his head, we do know that he understands the majority of what is going on around him. He is, unfortunately, a victim of the time period in which this book is set. Again, unable to communicate after the stroke, and of course, no one knows that he's had a stroke. They just think that he has been shot and that he has gone crazy or come insane, so he is put into an asylum. And our heroine knew him before he had the stroke, but didn't know him very well. And now she is going to the asylum. She sees him and she realizes there is something there, like he can comprehend, even though no one else believes that he can. So she is trying to help him recover from his stroke, be able to communicate, be able to take his dukedom back, that sort of thing. And aside from this book being incredibly sad, it's also not very romantic. And I can't really fault it for being unromantic given the topics at hand here. We have Maddie helping the Duke of Chavot kind of be able to communicate with people and, again, get out of this asylum. She does actually help him escape a couple of different times from certain situations that he doesn't want to be in, which is really great. But I don't really see the romantic connection between the two of them. Like, sure, there is that like caretaking element to the story, but our hero does still have violent outbursts. And again, I understand how frustrating it could be to not be able to communicate. It makes for a read that is a little bit challenging from a romance perspective, right? I think as just like a historical book, okay, historical romance, I'm not really seeing the connection between hero and heroine, frankly. He seems to be very obsessed with her. He does not want her to leave his side, and she is attracted to him, but she also she's a Quaker, didn't say that, she's a Quaker, and she has to live a certain way and not engage, I guess, like sexually with people, and I don't know. I'm not really feeling it. I'm just not really feeling this book. And it sucks because it's so fucking long and I'm like locked in and I want to finish it because this is one of those stories that is like beloved by historical romance lovers. It's like the, I don't want to say staples of the genre, but kind of. And so I'm like, does this get better? Is this going to be more romantic? A lot of people are saying the first 30% of this book is the good part. And I'm like, in what fucking universe? Good news is I'm about to go volunteer at the library for a couple of hours, which means I can pop in my audiobook, my AirPods and my audiobook. I'm doing two things at once. I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. At least I won't have to just like sit here listening to the story. I'll be like doing things. Yeah, just like this. This is how I'm gonna be. Okay. I'm gonna go make myself some yogurt before I head out. I'm gonna head out and I'll see y'all in a little bit. I want to finish this book. Hopefully next time I talk to you, I'll have finished this. The good news is not to spoil it. I have started another book and I am enjoying it. Thank fuck. 50% into that one, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Nothing like a good dinner, a good chocolate croissant, and getting to alphabetize books get me in a good mood. I finished Flowers from the Storm, and I can understand why people enjoy this book. It is very old school historical romance. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of like Lord of Scoundrels, especially with like some of the plot lines, which I won't spoil. I did grow to like the relationship between Christian and Maddie. Found Maddie's character a touch irritating, and to be honest, I didn't love Christian either. But these two characters are very real and very raw, and I think sometimes when I read historical romances, this isn't always the case, but I feel like there can be that level of disconnect from them, considering they don't talk like we do, they don't dress like we do, they don't have the social norms that we do in present day. That's not to say that human emotion doesn't trump all of that, but sometimes authors don't really flesh out their characters, and so again, I feel that distance. And in this book, I feel like that distance sort of melted away, even if I didn't love the characters, and I can understand what Kennedy Ryan and what other readers could see in this book. I think Laura Kinsale, in this one at least, does a very good job at, again, creating these characters that are flawed, that are messy, that get into kind of silly arguments like real people do. And it was really cool to see how Maddie supported Christian, you know, with his like traumatic brain injury and stroke and stuff. So I wouldn't say I loved this book, but I can understand what other people see in it. I am glad that I've read it because it is such a classic in the genre, and it is, you know, one of Kennedy Ryan's favorite books apparently. So can't say that I want to read more from this author in the future, but I'm glad to have read it. So let's talk about Let Me Love You by Alexandria House. I started this one last night because honestly, I am excited to film this video. Sometimes I'm excited to film videos, but I'm not excited to read the books. And it's not the books themselves, it's just like my mental health and all the other things going on in my life right now. I just have not been dying to pick up books, so I decided to pick up Let Me Love You first. It's familiar, I don't remember it, but I remember liking it, so I was like, okay, this is great. This is like perfect, exactly what I need, and I'm having a good time with it. Didn't remember all of the stuff that happens, but I am enjoying the character connection between Jo and Everett. So, this book's about our main character, Jo. She is a divorcee in her late 20s. She has a young daughter and an ex who is incredibly shitty. He is a very wealthy man, and so he pays for our heroine to live in a very nice community, and she doesn't technically have to work with, again, the amount of alimony she's getting, but she works at a, I'm gonna say jewelry store. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a jewelry store, a jeweler, and she is apprenticing under this guy who's like kind of a piece of shit. His name is Peter, I want to say. He makes a lot of like chains and just jewelry for rappers and like really, what's the word I'm looking for? Rich people. Our heroine ends up meeting our hero, who is a very rich rapper. He's like top of his game. He's in his late 30s, I think, or maybe like top of his game. He's kind of an old head. But she meets him when she delivers a piece of jewelry to him. He makes some incorrect assumptions about her and her character. He responds in kind of a bitchy way because, I mean, like, why wouldn't you if someone is disrespecting you? But they both are pretty much instantly attracted to each other, and this story is really about these two connecting and forming a bond, and I like it. Like, there's not a lot of tropes here. Could maybe turn some readers off, but there is a lot of realness and rawness here. Our heroine's baby daddy slash ex-husband is kind of a shitty guy. I think I've already stated that. He comes into the story to cause drama and cause problems with our heroine. Additionally, our hero has an ex-wife who was like 15 years older than him. He also has a daughter who's about 15. So he has some issues with his ex-wife still. She like kind of wants to get him back, and she causes like trouble and drama. The story is really about these two weathering the storm of all of the bullshit that life throws at them. Like, their relationship and how they come together is not necessarily something that is really fraught. They get off on the wrong foot in the beginning, but they get together pretty quickly. If you're not someone who likes sex early on in stories, I don't think you'll like this book, but I'm able to overlook that because I feel like the relationship is just very honest and real, and I like that. This is not the typical kind of story that I gravitate towards. I don't typically love when characters get together super early on sexually or romantically. Also, I didn't realize my phone was moving. My camera battery died, and that's kind of where we're at today. However, I don't know. I think I'm able to overlook it in this book because it does feel so authentic. I think part of that comes down to the writing. I think Alexandria House does a really good job at capturing how people actually talk and interact with each other. Sometimes I read books and I'm like, dialogue's witty, but people don't actually fucking talk like this. In Alexandria House books, like, people talk like this and will make these like love declarations early, you know? Life isn't always this slow-moving, fall fast and hard for someone, and that's kind of what's happening here. So it feels very counterintuitive and contradictory to a lot of things that I say in my videos, but if an author can do something well, I'm able to overlook the fact that I don't typically like that trope or that execution of a thing. So in this book, I'm liking it. I'm liking Everett's character. He's very, not dominant. I don't know how I would describe his character, but I really like him. I also really like Jo. Like, she's very level-headed, no bullshit. She wants to make a good life for herself and her daughter, and she is trying to make that happen. And she's also trying to deal with the fact that her life doesn't look the way that she thought it would. So, and Pepper is liking crawling all over me. So I'm gonna go. I really want to get my PJs and I want to finish this book, and I will report back tomorrow. And I don't know what we're reading after this, but it's gonna be something, and hopefully it's good. I mean, this is good. Hopefully I can find a new favorite here. Maybe. Hello, Divas. Much better quality today. Not on that. I was gonna say camera phone, which is fucking crazy. Not on my cell phone. I have battery, it's charged. I've got some lights up because I was making a thumbnail for a video. I have books to talk to you about, so I thought I could do that with the lighting being decent because it's an ugly day outside. We leave off Let Me Love You by Alexandria House. Now, I don't think I liked this quite as much the second time around, but I can appreciate it for what it is. Like I was saying yesterday, I think that this book really does touch on a lot of issues that people do experience in their everyday life, like meddlesome exes, maybe not the challenges and trials and tribulations of fame. That's probably not something that we often deal with, but I felt like this book was relatable despite some of the like unrelatable things that were happening, I guess you could say. I did really love how our hero committed to our heroine and he did not stray from her. I thought that was so romantic, so sexy. It really was these two against the world. So if you're someone who likes a good like ride or die romance, I think you're going to enjoy this one. I think what might turn you off from it, and the thing that has me kind of rethinking my original 4 to 5 star rating, I can't remember exactly what I rated this, it would be how many conflicts came in the last 50% of this book. Now, that's not to say that they were all wildly unrealistic, but it seemed like some of the meddling from certain people was a little bit far-fetched, right? I'm not going to spoil it for you, but our hero's ex-wife is trying to get him back, right? And she's going to do whatever she can to make that happen. She does some stuff that is just absolutely crazy. I would say something that is maybe realistic be her showing up with her daughter, aka Everett's daughter, showing up with this girl for Thanksgiving and being like, oh, I have nowhere to go, like, you should let me hang out with you guys for Thanksgiving. That seemed realistic to me. But some of the actions she took after that, the multiple actions she took after that, were again, maybe a little bit far-fetched. I'm not saying this has never happened to anybody. There's one scene in particular that I was like, are you kidding? Do people actually behave this way? I mean, I'm sure that they do. There was some stuff that I was like, this is a bit much. And I don't know that we needed all of that. Guess show us how strong the love was between hero and heroine. It seems like they overcame some of these challenges. I don't want to say too easily. It felt like something would pop up, they would come together in love and squash whatever that was and continue on with their lives. And I mean, that's great. Like, it shows us that these two are compatible, but I actually think I would have preferred to see maybe fewer of those situations, maybe a couple of those happen, and then maybe one conflict, like one true conflict between hero and heroine, something that really feels like, maybe not like it could be the end of them, but something that actually tests them as a couple and their bond. I didn't really feel like I saw that quite as much. All of that to say though, I do enjoy this book. I think it's a good time. I think the other books in the series maybe a little bit more than this first one, but this one is a good time, and I just like this author a lot. I think that she does a good job too at like introducing you to the other potential, I don't want to say potential love interest, but the heroes of future books. She does a really good job at introducing them and getting you like curious about them. So I don't know. I would recommend checking this one out. I think that Flowers from the Storm, you could probably like skip if you're not a historical romance person. You really want to like know your history in terms of, you know, what used to be popular or what was popular, you know, in the heyday of historical romance. Maybe pick that one up. This, I think, is just a solid contemporary romance. It's fun. It's different. I don't know. I feel like the romance and the love was convincing. This one, again, kind of fits what Kennedy Ryan was saying in that she enjoys stories that have conflict and has a couple trying to weather the storm of, you know, their surroundings. 2 for 2 in terms of these feeling like I understand why Kennedy has picked them. Now we can move on to talking about Black by Joan. I don't know if it's Vassar or Vassar. I need to look that up. This book is about the, I believe, fictional son of Nat Turner. Nat Turner is, you know, obviously a historical figure. But in this story, Nat Hope Turner is his son. He is being raised by not his biological mother, but by someone else, someone who is attending his birth. At the beginning of the story, he is trying to free his mother, another young woman who are living in slavery. He's been free for a while. He's living in Canada and he has made a name for himself and is trying to basically ensure slavery doesn't exist. He says that like no one is free until we're all free. Frees his mother, he saves his mother and this woman named Sunday. She's a young woman and he is instantly drawn to her and attracted to her. The majority of this book, I would say, is the romance between Sunday and Nat, but it is also about trying to protect Sunday from the person who owned her, essentially. Whenever Nat picks her up and is like bringing her to freedom and safety, she was thinking she was going to be sexually assaulted by the person that owned her. Horrific and kind of crazy opening scene, honestly. Like the first interaction between Sunday and Nat is her nude in her quarters and she is thinking that she's going to be assaulted. She's like, I need to be undressed and just pray that this is over quickly. Thankfully she's saved before that happens. And she does talk about the guilt she feels actually because of that, which I thought was an interesting inclusion. But the person who used to own her is trying to get her back and is, I don't want to say at war with Nat, but you know that there is conflict rising and we know that shit could go down. So it's really about this man trying to protect a woman that he loves and trying to help his people. I am kind of torn with this one, I will say. I don't love the writing. In some ways, this reminds me a little bit of Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. That was actually, I believe, one of the books that Lady Ryan loves, but is not, I've already read it, so I didn't put it on this list or, you know, include it in this video. It's not totally the same, but there are some shared elements, and it's hard not to compare that book to this one and not see how much more I love that book, because I think the problem here is that the connection between Sunday and Nat is really based on sex for the most part. He, I don't want to say indulges in her body. She definitely like wants to have sex with him as well. well. It's not like they don't want to have sex. It's not like he doesn't want to marry her. They're going to marry soon, but just not feeling a lot of the connection between the two of them. And I think that's something I appreciated so much when I read Indigo. We had this woman helping this man who is injured, and through that intimate experience, they have these deep conversations, and she tells him, I'm not going to have sex with you. I know you're a player. And they talk a lot before they actually engage physically. In this book, I'm not really feeling those conversations. Like, as the book carries on, sure, they're talking, but it's more about talking about the things that are happening to them rather than actually shared interests and things like that. And I don't want to say that that's automatically bad. I think that this book is perhaps a little bit more plot driven than Indigo. I mean, I feel like that's kind of unfair to say because Indigo is very plot driven, but this one seems more focused on the things that are happening around these characters. I think, again, there is some similarity, honestly, between this and Let Me Love You. We've got two characters who get together very early on. They've got a physical chemistry. They're fucking a lot. And it's just these two against the world. And they're trying to prevent people from ripping them apart, which it's not a bad thing. I think in this context, I want a little bit more conversation. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't dislike it. I don't think it's a bad book. I really enjoy historical romances that are not white Regency romances. I'm understanding why Kennedy's enjoying these books, and it is interesting to see how an author that I really enjoyed, like I can see where she draws inspiration. I also just prefer her writing, I think is really the thing. Again, she has those deep conversations and those things that I feel like I'm missing in some of these books, but I'm going to continue this one and I'm gonna finish it and I'm gonna start on something else. Probably How to Kill a Rockstar, I think. I'm actually gonna travel to Houston on Thursday. I thought I was going to be done with this video before then, but I think I'm going to listen to the audiobook for Glitterland on the way there. Hello, my friends. Happy Thursday. I finished a book last night and I got 50% into another one. So let's talk about it. First up, I did in fact finish Black, and I will say the story grew on me. I think that the hero's devotion to the heroine is really what carried this book for me. Got a little bit tired of the plot line. Like, I thought it was very admirable, again, that our hero was going to such great lengths to ensure that his woman was safe. Very romantic, very sexy, but I felt like the page length did kind of drag on a little bit for me near the end there, but it was really nice seeing the conclusion of that storyline. Seeing this evil man get what was coming to him was really, really nice. Sometimes we just want to read that. Sometimes that is what we desire and what we crave. And, you know, with all the things going on in the world right now, it's really nice to see that. It was really nice to see evil people get what's coming to them. So I don't know that I would say this is a new favorite. I don't know that I would say you need to rush out and read this book, but it does have merit. It does have value, and I can understand why Kennedy likes it. Again, I think what I'm seeing here, it's not just what she was describing in terms of, you know, two people being raw and real. That's part of it, but I think that what I'm learning from her books, or the books that she enjoys, is that there is just this connection that sort of like defies all logic between heroes and heroines in books that she enjoys. And I'm feeling that way in this fourth book that I'm reading right now, really seeing how two people can come together and despite all odds just not even remain together. Again, it's not necessarily about those outside forces, which is something that tends to recur in some of these books, but it's more so the way that these two people decide that they're going to be together and they do whatever it takes to, you know, make that happen. And again, it's not about the outside forces, it's about this like cosmic sort of connection that again defies explanation. It's not something that you can really put into words, but you just love this person. I don't know that I've experienced that personally. Don't get me wrong, love my husband. I don't know that our love is this like big cosmic thing that I'm seeing in some of these books. And it does kind of make sense, I guess, reading these books and then reading Kennedy's books, because I think she's able to do that. Though I will say she is able to do that while also lending really good dialogue and conversation to her stories. And I think that's what I'm missing again in some of these books, is there's not a lot of that. We're given these connections and we're supposed to feel them, but we're not really seeing a lot of how those connections really form beyond like the I saw her across the room and she's beautiful and I knew she was the only woman for me. Interesting to see how an author can take something from a story, or take multiple things from stories, you know, read these books and feel so inspired and then create something that has some similarities but also is so uniquely theirs, right? So, talk about How to Kill a Rockstar. This book is interesting. I didn't know what to expect going into this because it looked a little bit, I don't want to say not romance to me, but it didn't really seem like a traditional romance from the cover, from some of the reviews, but it feels very much like a romance, I will say, in reading it. There's a lot going on, but there definitely is a romantic story at the center of the book. So, centers around our main character, Eliza. She grew up in, I want to say like the Midwest, and now she is in New York to live her dream, being a music journalist. She has wanted this her whole life, and she actually gets this opportunity to interview interview a very, very famous musician. I'm trying to think of like what fame level I would compare him to, but like one of the greats of music, right? Older gentleman. She comes across him, I think like after a show. She convinces him to let her do an interview. And after this interview that she submits to a really popular magazine, she gets the opportunity to actually work at the magazine. So her gumption definitely pays off, which is honestly kind of interesting to think about because I don't really see her character as someone having a lot of gumption, but that's besides the point. She gets to New York where one of her brothers is living. It actually might be her only brother. And she gets caught up in his band. He is a part of a band called Banana Fish, and he is, I want to say like the bassist or something like that, maybe drummer. He's not the lead singer. The lead singer is a guy named Paul, and our heroine is actually shacking up with Paul at the beginning of the story. She needs somewhere to live. She's moving to New York for a job, but she doesn't have a lot of money and she needs somewhere to live. So she's going to live with the lead singer of this band. And of course she ends up falling for him. Now, Paul is a difficult character. He is a difficult person. He is very dreamy. He's very much a dreamer. He has this vision of what he wants his music to be and what kind of record deal he wants to get his band. Definitely doesn't want to be a sellout. He definitely believes that music should trump everything. I kind of respect his moral code, I guess. On the other hand, I'm like, dude, just get over it and sign the fucking record deal. The book is really about, I would say, Banana Fish's rise to fame, the way that Eliza is helping them do that, the connections that Eliza has had with some other musicians, like that guy at the very beginning of the book. Can I not think of his name at the moment? But that famous guy, he also has a son who has like a crush on our heroine, and she does an interview with him, and an interesting book, and I'm very curious to see where things go, because at this 50% mark, the band has signed a record deal. Her brother is now going to be making lots of money, which his girlfriend's really happy about. Our heroine's really excited. She's engaged to Paul, the lead singer of the band, and she is just excited to see their career really take off. She's pushing Paul to kind of like stretch his boundaries in terms of what he allows. Again, he is very like, oh, it's all about the music, and like, I don't even want music videos. And she's like, dude, you need fucking music videos. It's 2000. People watch music videos right now. That's when this book is set, and also this book was written in 2005. So before I forget, lots of inappropriate usage of words. That's gay, or you're gay, definitely used often. The R slur is also present, so definitely be aware going into this. It was written in 2005, and it definitely feels like it was written in 2005. There's also some world events that happened in New York around 2001 that are present in this book, though, God, I was really nervous that it would be like a plot twist. It was not a plot twist, thankfully. Book's really about, again, our heroine trying to like push this guy to be great and to take his passion and turn it into something slightly commercial. Again, she's also making a name for herself, and she's also trying to do her career stuff, and by interviewing this guy who like kind of has a crush on her. I don't think she knows he has a crush on her, but I find interesting is they actually just had this big family dinner, like that big hotshot that she interviewed to get her job in the first place at that magazine. He has a dinner with his son, again, the guy that has a crush on our heroine, plus Paul, plus that guy's ex-wife and children. They're all having this dinner together, and our heroine remarks in her head that like this is kind of the life that she always dreamed of, to like be with a wealthy musician and have two little boys running around. And I'm like, oh God, like I don't think this is going to be her story with this guy, but I'm also like, I wonder how he's going to play into the story and like what the chaos of it is going to be. Now, I'm definitely most enthralled by this book. I wouldn't say that I'm loving it in terms of the romantic connection. This is another connection that seems to be born a lot of we're destined for each other. I saw you when I was waiting for you, about to ride the subway, and I just thought you were beautiful, and there's just something magnetic about you in the way that you listen to people. It's not necessarily about like a ton of I mean, I was gonna say not shared interest. I mean, she cares about music and he a musician, so I guess there's that, but like it's like an unspoken connection rather than a having conversations and like we care about each other sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's just gonna be what I'm saying about all of these books, but I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. Like it might not be to my taste, but I don't think that that makes it a bad book, right? Maybe undercooked a touch, but that's just my opinion, right? I mean, this is all my opinion, but yeah, it's definitely interesting to explore different kinds of connections in romance and to appreciate it even if it is not my preferred. So it is interesting, again, to see where authors draw their inspiration, and I can say with some certainty that this is not the kind of story that I am inspired by, like any of these books. None of the connections there are really things that I'm inspired by, but it does make me wonder, I guess, what I am most inspired by and like what will color my own writing as I continue to write that I'm writing. So anyway, I'm gonna go. I need to go to Pilates. I need to get on the road. My plan is to listen to all of Glitterland on the way there. The audiobook is just conveniently the exact length that it takes to get to my parents' house. Now when I get there, I think I'm going to finish this book, How to Kill a Rockstar, and then we'll be done with the video, my friends. It's a short one, but I also think it's been fun, reflective, interesting. I haven't hated it, which is, you know, good. I mean, I was excited to do the video, but I do think there's always that there where it's like, am I gonna hate all of the books? And while none of these are new favorites, I'm not hating it, and I do find it interesting. And that is ideal, I think, for me. You know, if I'm not gonna love a book, at least I can find some like value in having read it. So Okay, I'm gonna go. Coming to you live from Houston, I have some final updates for you, my friends. So, first up, I did end up finishing How to Kill a Rockstar, and I read Glitterland, so it means the video is officially over after I tell you about the books. How to Kill a Rockstar, I actively disliked. I thought that it was going to grow on me, and I thought that Paul and Eliza's relationship was going to be something that I rooted for, but unfortunately, I really hated Paul. I also felt like Eliza was too self-sacrificing and couldn't fully put her trust in Paul. There's a moment in this book at the kind of 50% mark where our hero and our heroine are kind of facing down the barrel of their lives, right? They're going to potentially marry, and as a part of that, our hero kind of wants to abandon his band, and our heroine is very against this. She's like, no, you can't do this, and he is not listening to reason. Doesn't really listen to reason generally, so it's not that surprising. But instead of taking him at face value and respecting his wishes, even if she thinks he's crazy to turn down this amazing record deal and opportunity to go tour, she decides to take things into her own hands and betray him in the name of getting him to do what she wants, which is, again, to go on this tour. And this causes them to separate for a while and they get back together later on. I don't care if I'm spoiling this book. I don't really think you should read it for many reasons. I mean, I talked about some of them in the last clip. The slurs, the language usage, there's just not much, I think, that is like amazing or redeemable about this book. That stuff's bad. The actual story itself, I also didn't really like. I just really couldn't, again, I couldn't root for them. And our heroine, she tells people her plans. Like after she has betrayed Paul, she tells a couple of people that she has done this, to ensure that Paul goes on this tour and that, everything kind of goes the way that she thinks that it should. And everybody is telling her she's stupid and that she should allow this man to make his own choices. Like, sure, he'd be giving up his band, but like he would be with you and he would love that and all these things. Part of the reason that he doesn't want to go on this tour is because he knows it's going to be in airplanes, and our heroine's parents died in a fiery plane crash and she refuses to get on planes. Yeah, I just think that she was really frustrating, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to be scared of airplanes. Fuck, my parents didn't die in a fiery crash, but like I don't want to be on an airplane. There was just too much that was goofy about this book, and then near the end, we really do jump the shark. I don't even want to spoil it. I mean, I desperately do, but I'm not going to. There's something that happens at the end of this book, and I'm just like, are you fucking kidding? Like, is this really how we're going to get to a place that we should be? And here's the thing. I know life is messy. It doesn't necessarily follow in exactly the way that we want it to. I think people argue with me in the comments sometimes about how I like things, wrapped up in a neat bow and I want there to be happy ending and things like that. Like, yes, no shit, I read romance. Like, I want there to be happy ending. I think I was just most annoyed by this book because we start in one place with our hero pursuing his dream and our heroine trying to support that. And by the end of the book, that's kind of kaput. And it's not even for any good reason. It's not even that he finds that, this isn't actually what he wants and he wants the heroine all along, or I don't know, there just wasn't a good message from it. It was just like, okay, so I get to be annoyed this entire time and then nothing comes from it. So I didn't like this. Not saying this weighs into my decision how I feel about this book, but Colleen Hoover did really enjoy this book and rate it highly. I think if you like Colleen Hoover books, you might like this. I'm not going to say that this is the same in terms of the intellect or necessarily the demographic of readership, but the general non-sensory. Yes, very, very much Colleen Hoover. So let's move on, shall we, to a book I did actually kind of like despite the odds stacked against it. Glitterland by Alexis Hall. So this one, I was very excited about going into it, knowing absolutely nothing, because again, Kennedy Ryan likes it. She put it on this list. And also one of my best friends who I've reconnected with recently loves this book. It's one of her favorite books and it is inspiring her own writing. So I was like, okay, what is this going to be? I'm very intrigued. I need to know. Okay. This book is about our two main characters, Ash and Darian. Ash is someone who has been through a lot. At the very beginning of the book, we know that he has had multiple attempts to unalive himself. He has bipolar 1. He has had some psychotic episodes and he has been hospitalized for his mental health. He is now in a pretty good place. He's medicated. He's got people around him who support him and care for him. He has this guy in his life named Niall, who is kind of someone he hooked up with for a while. Niall has been pining over this guy named Max for years. Max is getting married to a woman. I guess as a result of not being able to be with the guy that he loves, he has been banging Ash for a while, and also like being an emotional support and or ensuring that Ash is okay. He's actually one of the people, well, he's the only person that found Ash after one of his attempts, so he is a factor in the story. But the story is really about Ash meeting this very random guy from Essex at a club one night and being completely enamored with him. He is described as this like gaudy, tacky, spray tan to the gods, big quiff, Essex accent, just like not the same caliber of person, I guess you could say, as our hero, who is educated. And I say caliber, I don't mean this in a judgmental way or that I view him this way. This is just how the book is setting it up. Okay. Hero is an author who's very wealthy from the writing he's done. He's done some sort of like esoteric bullshit, but he's also written some commercially successful mystery novels. he does this. Anyway, he's at a club for a bachelor party. He sees this guy from Essex and he's like, I don't know what it is, but I am just like so drawn to him. He calls him a glitter pirate, I think. Like he's just against all odds attracted to this guy who is probably really annoying, is what he says. And sure enough, they meet, they hook up, and our hero is like so taken with him, his attractiveness, the sexual encounter that they have, but he is just so like not into who this person is as a person. And Darian, the glitter pirate, he is really fun, really sweet, but just personality wise, upbringing wise, like just they don't run in the same circles, I guess. I hook up and I was curious where this book was going to go from there. Like, is this going to be the love interest? Surely not the way that he's being described and this hookup is being described. No, he is in fact the love interest of the story. This book is really about Ash getting to know this person who is completely different than himself, putting aside some of his prejudices and his notions about what it means, I guess, to be intellectual. Not that Darian is some great intellect. That's not really the point of the story. It's like sometimes there just is this connection that's unexplainable. You know, I think that's something we've been revisiting a lot in this video, is like the unexplainability of connection and of romance. That's really what's present in this story, but it's so charming seeing these two meet in the middle and pick up on each other's like colloquialisms and turns of phrase and just enjoy each other's presence. And I really liked seeing too how the hero, it's mostly told from Ash's point of view, seeing how Ash goes out of his way to push himself when he is with Darian. Niall has been someone who's, again, really present in Ash's life and has been like, oh, you can't possibly do that. Like, that's just going to send you into a spiral. And like, you're not a responsible person, all these things. Kind of putting Ash down and infantilizing him because of his mental health, whereas Darian is very encouraging and he's aware at some points, like later on in the book, that our hero has mental illness, but he doesn't baby him and he doesn't treat him any differently. And a lot of the times that actually really works well for our hero. Ash like really grows as a person. It's just fun. It was a fun book. I think that if you're someone who is a little bit of a cynic, I think that you might really enjoy this. At points, I was annoyed by Ash's character, but I think that's kind of the point. I think Alexis Hall tends to write characters that are a little prickly and irritating, but at the end of the story, I feel like, you know, there's been so much growth here. There's been so much change. And also, it's not like you're a completely different person, but like you have grown enough to where I'm like, yeah, I root for this relationship too. And Darian is just so fucking charming and fun. And yeah, I didn't know what to expect. About the first 30% of this book, I was very uncertain about what my friend and what Kennedy Ryan see in this book, but there's just something about it. It's just fun. It's glittery. It's messy. It's raw. It's dark. The writing is very, very well done as well. It's very atmospheric. Like you really feel like you're in this kind of like grungy dark place with our hero at the beginning of the book and getting drawn into this world of Darian's, meeting Darian's friends. It's fun. It's a fun book. I really liked this one. And I think I've been reticent to rate the books in this video because most of them are not necessarily my cup of tea. They're not necessarily things that like I would be rating 5 stars, but I can appreciate in context, you know, in the context of this is someone's favorite books and this is why this person likes these books and these are inspiring their own writing and things like that. So I would say of all of the books, I think Glitterland is probably my favorite. How to Kill a Rockstar probably being my least favorite. So it was interesting reading those 2 books back to back. Overall, this was like just a very fun experience. I don't know that I have a ton to reflect on other than what I've done throughout the video. I think that Kennedy Ryan is a singularly talented author, and it is really cool to see where she draws her inspiration from and how she appreciates this connection between people that doesn't even have to be spoken, and how she plays with that idea in her stories. I do kind of want to reread some of her books now and see if I notice any similarities, because when I think Kennedy Ryan, I think great dialogue, I think connection, but like this great dialogue and this great, I don't want to say true connection, but like spoken connection between characters, whereas a lot of these books it was unspoken connection. So I think it would be interesting to revisit her books with that new context. But honestly, I just had a lot of fun with this. It was interesting to kind of like peek behind the curtain and see one of my favorite authors' favorite books. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books or if you would be maybe interested in me doing this again for a different author. There were quite a few authors, you know, on this list, but I specifically picked Kennedy Ryan because I thought her, you know, picks were the most interesting. But say Abby Jimenez's did kind of pique my interest as well. So let me know maybe if you want to see that one or any other sort of I read 5 video you'd like to see. But I'm gonna go because I can hear one of the cats has brought me a present and has been wailing outside of this bedroom door. But thanks so much for watching. I love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one.